It's good to see you today. Hope you're having a good day. We are in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Hope the Thursday is going well for you. Let's get over there. Let's read a little bit. We left off yesterday, right around verse 17, talking about the picture of the temple, which here is the church. The temple of God is holy, which temple you are. Verse 18, let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you seems to be wise, in this age, let him become a fool that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He catches the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are futile. Therefore let no one boast in men. For all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death, or things present or things to come, all are yours, and you are Christ's, and Christ is God's. We'll look more at the back half of that passage tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about all things are yours. But for today's study, we're going to look at that figure really from verse 17 down through verse 20. To look at that passage, what points can we make? It talks about the self-deceived. Let no man deceive himself. That's what the passage says. Let no one deceive himself. And that is a horrible picture when someone believes their own lies. Someone believes their own hype. It is not hard to understand how a person can become proud. I think it's like chicken and egg. Which one comes first? Does the pride lead to the self-deception, or does the self-deception lead to the pride? I don't know. All I know is it ends in destruction. But that's what was happening here in Corinth. You had people who were being self-deceived. It's to just look at that phrase and to meditate on it. They are fooling themselves. They're fooling themselves. That is what was happening. That was what was happening here in Corinth. Self-deception. You have a quotation from Job, and it's from Job chapter 5, verses 6 through 17. Let's look at the passage in Corinth, and I want you to, as we look at the passage, reflect on some of the things we've already talked about before we read it. It's verse 19 is the quote. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness. That wisdom of this world, go back to chapter 1. Remember what chapter 1 talks about. When it talks about the Jews request a sign, the Greeks seek after wisdom. And you have this ongoing theme. The wisdom of this world is foolishness with God, for it is written, He catches the wise in their own craftiness. Think about earlier this week, earlier in chapter 3, where Paul uses that figure of the field. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gives the increase. Just hang on to those thoughts. And I want to go back and I want to read from Job where this quote in verse 19 is. So let's go back there. It's Job chapter 5, and we'll start reading in verse 6. You can read the whole thing if you want to for yourself. Let me back up a little bit. Chapter 4, this is Eliphaz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Eliphaz speaks, and it looks like, as it continues on, we get to chapter 5. Let's read a little bit. Verse 6. For affliction does not come from the dust, nor does trouble spring from the ground. Yet man is born to trouble, as the sparks fly upward. But as for me, I would seek God, and to God I would commit my cause, who does great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. He gives rain on the earth, and sends water on the fields. He sets on high those who are lowly, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He frustrates the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot carry out their plans. He catches the wise in their own craftiness. There's our quote. He catches the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the cunning comes quickly upon them. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope at noontime as in the night. But he saves the needy from the sword, from the mouth of the mighty, and from their hand. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts her mouth. Behold, happy is the man whom God corrects. Therefore do not despise the chastening of the Almighty. For he bruises, but he binds up. He wounds, but his hands make whole. Really is just an absolutely lovely passage. And as we think about, as we consider Corinthians, don't be self-deceived. Don't be lifted up. You'll be brought down. Those who humble themselves, God gives grace to those who humble themselves. If you humble yourself, He'll lift you up. But He catches the wise, He catches the crafty, the wise in their own craftiness. But I just wanted to read that passage from Job, and it just makes you wonder, as the quotation comes from Job, and it still uses the figure of the field. It still uses the figure of the field, and it's just a wonderful passage there. He gives rain on the earth and sends water on the fields. But he frustrates the crafty. But those who are wise in their own eyes, they meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope at noontime as in the night. Look back. I don't have it up on the screen. Let me get over there. I'll get it up on the screen. Look back in 1 Corinthians. But let's look in chapter 2, not chapter 1. Now I have to wait for my stupid computer. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, at the tail end of it. And remember that passage in Job. Those who are wise in their own eyes, they grope around in the daytime. That figure. At noontime, it's dark. But those who follow the Lord, the spiritual man, verse 15, he who is spiritual judges all things. It's the picture of seeing clearly. He discerns. Those who are wise in their own eyes, they are not discerning. They are not discerning. They have deceived themselves. They have deceived themselves. But those who follow the Lord will be their defense. In that passage in Job, injustice will shut her mouth, and justice will prevail. The Lord has not forsaken us. There's a lot of trouble happening at Corinth right now, but there are folks there in Corinth who are doing the best that they could. You can tell Chloe is frustrated. I guarantee there were others who are frustrated by the situation. They needed to hold on. They needed to be faithful. The Lord had not forsaken them, and the Lord would deal with these issues. But here, as we look at the tail end of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, you have the quotation, but there were those there who were self-deceived. Would they be able to take correction? And that's another reason I wanted to read that verse from Job. Would they be willing to take correction? I shouldn't have left Job. I want to go back there. Not 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Here in Job chapter 5. There at the tail end of that quotation, behold, happy is the man whom God corrects. Therefore do not despise the chastening of the Almighty. As much as you can say that in Job chapter 5, and I understand there's other issues in Job. I understand that. This is not a study of Job, just looking where the quotation's from. But I'll tell you right now, one of the lessons the Corinthians needed to learn, they needed to be able to take correction. And a lot of people can't. And the reason a lot of people cannot take correction and instruction is because of pride. They have deceived themselves, and they think they're doing the right thing. Sad, but it happens. It happens. Don't boast in men. Do not boast in men. Let no one boast in men, for all things are yours. We'll talk more about, like I said, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. and we'll try to end on a high note as it is. I know these last few studies been kind of downers a little bit, but don't boast in men. And people who think that it can't affect a church today, they need to open their eyes and not because they're deceiving themselves. They're fooling themselves. You don't think people still get preacheritis? You don't think people still get teacheritis? You don't think people still fall, oh, well, old brother so and so said that, so it must be true. Does the Bible say it? Oh, well, this person, he's such a great orator, so it must be true. Don't boast in men. There Paul is. I'm just a minister. I'm just a planter. I'm just a farmer. We're just stewards, is what he's going to talk about later on. Why would you boast in men? Why would you boast in men? If we're going to glory in anybody, we're going to glory in Jesus Christ and Him crucified. And if our glorying in Jesus Christ and Him crucified, if that's not sufficient for you and you feel like you have to glory in someone else, then you're frankly not going to be in the church very long. Because that's the wood, hay, and the stubble. That's the wood, hay, and the stubble. Jesus is the foundation, and yet you have people in Corinth, well, I'm of this person, I'm of that person, were they crucified for you? Were you baptized in their name? Are you following Jesus or are you following somebody else? Don't boast in men. Hope the study's been beneficial for you as we think about, consider application. What's divisiveness look like today? Because that's the problem in Corinth. It's divisiveness. Now that's a result of the things going on. What does divisiveness look like today? It looks like gossip. It looks like slander. It looks like quarreling. It's lying. It's hatefulness. That's what it looks like. So if those things are present in the church today, if those things are present in people's lives today, then divisiveness is present in the church and in people's lives today. Gossip and slander and hatefulness and all those things. Hope the study's been beneficial for you. Like I said, we'll try to end on a high note tomorrow, hopefully. Hope you have a good day. Appreciate you tuning in. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. You know the routine by now, hopefully. Have a good day. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks for being with us.